Hey, I'm Roger. Have you ever made any rash purchases? The ones when you get back home, you felt petty for your own stupidity and just go back to the store and return the things you bought? Here's the thing. I recently sort of bought myself a girlfriend. No, I'm not a millionaire or anything, and the family I come from is pretty average in terms of income, because my dad's a carpenter and my mom's an illustrator. We weren't poor, though. I mean, my parents could afford to send me to college, where I'm studying now in my second year. You might ask where I got money for a girlfriend, though. And I'll tell you. When I was 14 and Dad and I went to the city to do his errands, I saw an extremely awesome car. It was an Aston Martin, and it was one of the latest models. And when I heard my dad sigh, which I thought was indicating his own unfulfilled dreams, I decided that when I grow up, I'll do everything in my power to provide my parents with a better life. For starters, I began to look for any way to make a dollar, whenever it was possible, and I saved all the money I earned. At first, I was a helper in a flower shop, run by our neighbor. Then I worked part-time at the car wash and as a janitor in one of the local cafes. And as soon as I entered college, I started making money as a teaching assistant. So by the time this story happened, I managed to save a few $1,000s and was right away thinking of either starting any business or investing it in the stock market. And that's when I met Becky. Oh, she looked like a model or something, with her perfect body, long blonde hair, and big green eyes. For me, it was love at first sight, or a spark, or whatever it's called. But she obviously was not considering me as a possible boyfriend. I'm not sure if she would have noticed me at all if I hadn't distinguished myself during our macroeconomics class, fending off the professor's questions. Anyway, as soon as she understood that I was kind of smart, she began being friendly with me. And even though my fellows were saying that she only needed me to do her homework, I didn't mind, because I thought this friend zone would eventually give me an opportunity to ask her out. You would be amazed if you knew how many times I tried to ask Becky on a date. But she was always in the middle of something important. I knew that such a special girl deserved something special, so I thought that maybe it was the way I was asking her out that didn't actually work. That's why once I mustered up all the courage that I had and asked her on a date right in the middle of a lecture. I promised to make it a real fairy tale for her if she said yes. People around us began giggling and hooting, and the professor promised to arrange a personal fairy tale for me in the form of a pop quiz. But it all didn't matter, because Becky finally said yes. It turned out that it was extremely hard to come up with a perfect scenario for a fairy tale date. All of my friends are suggesting different classy things like a bouquet of roses and a walk in the park, but I desperately wanted to amaze her. I thought it wouldn't be a big deal if I put my hand in my savings to, make that evening totally memorable. And for that, I definitely needed some money. So on the big day, I ordered the flowers to be delivered to her starting in the early morning and kept different bouquets coming every hour until 6 p.m., when we were supposed to meet at a restaurant. After dinner, we went to a park where a horse and carriage were already waiting for us. And after a short ride, we sat together on a park bench with a wonderful view of the night city, and I gave her a nice silver bracelet. Yeah, I know. I might have been a little stupid to risk that much, because she promised me nothing. But I was totally in love with Becky. And when she gave me a kiss, I understood that it was worth every dollar I spent. Of course, since that date, we became an actual couple. And during the whole next week, from time to time, I heard other girls whispering and gossiping about that night, which actually meant that Becky liked it so much that she kept bragging to everyone about how romantic I was. I was totally happy with her, and I basically felt like I could fly. There was only one thing that didn't bother me at first, but at some point started to become very suspicious. Becky kept demanding presents and surprises from me. And even though I knew that all girls like experiencing that kind of stuff from time to time, I couldn't help but think that my girlfriend turned out to be quite a materialistic gist. I'll explain a little. One day, Becky kept giving me hints that she badly needed a beautiful and expensive dress, and it happened to be on sale, but she didn't have enough money and so on. So I bought it for her. In the next 2 days, she asked me to go with her to pick up a present for her friend who had a birthday coming up. And while doing so, she found some nice shoes to match that dress that I bought earlier. So I bought them. And that stupid present for a friend of hers. A month into our relationship, she said it was for our first anniversary and so on. So, I had to spend some money again. Yes, I know, I should have talked to her about that. It's just, I loved her. And I couldn't resist when she started using that baby talk and stuff. Anyway, then spring break came, and I really wanted to visit my family back in my hometown. I told Becky about that, and she really surprised me by saying that she also wanted to come, to be introduced to my mom and dad. This was quite unexpected and totally awesome, so I bought 2 tickets instead of 1 and called Mom to say that I wouldn't be coming alone. I saw how nervous and anxious Becky was in the airplane, and she kept asking what she should do to please my mom and what topics my dad liked to discuss and stuff like that. And when we arrived to my house, I noticed that my parents were also sort of getting ready to entertain us. Everything was sparkling and fresh. Flowers were everywhere. And suddenly I felt like I could really become one family with Becky someday. And I even saw a picture in my head of how we would come here every Christmas. But you know what was strange? Becky seemed to be surprised by what she was seeing. I mean, the house and my parents, but not in a good way. As soon as she entered the house, it seemed to me that she had an expression of disgust on her face, as if something smelled bad there. And when my mom hugged her, saying that it was nice to meet her, she barely smiled and said nothing. She was silent during the whole dinner and practically ate nothing, although everything was really delicious. And I saw that my mom had spent hours cooking the whole meal. And then Becky simply said that she had to get back to college and left the table. The next day, she demanded that I drop her off at the airport. Everybody was so confused, especially me, taking into account that she was the one who suggested we come here together. I rushed to talk to her, and even though I felt really offended, I tried to sound calm. She, on the other hand, turned hysterical and started accusing me of lying to her by saying something like I came from a wealthy family just to have a relationship with her. And now it turned out that my family could barely afford to have a decent meal on the table. This made me really angry. Normally, I don't let anybody talk like that about my parents. But that time I happened to fall in love with that somebody and just didn't really want to lose her after a simple misunderstanding. I tried to explain to Becky that I wasn't a liar and that her behavior was inappropriate, but she didn't want to listen. So she just left and I stayed there at a total loss for words. Of course, after the break was over, I had to get back to college, and I was pretty sure that Becky had already spread the word about my dishonesty and other nasty stuff. But something totally opposite happened right on the first day we saw each other. She rushed to me and started apologizing for being rude with my parents. And she said that she regretted what she had done the moment she left my house, and many other really surprising things. Honestly, at that moment, I seriously thought she might be suffering from a bipolar disorder or something, because she really behaved like a totally different girl. This made me happy, though, since I was still in love with her and missed her badly. Later that day, when I told my fellows about the amazing change in Becky's attitude, they already knew about our far from being a nice trip to my parents' story. One of them, Sam, made a confession, and after that, things sort of fell into place. He said that soon after Becky returned, he heard her telling her girlfriends some pretty crappy things about my family and our home. As a good friend, he couldn't let her do that, and in an attempt to protect me, he came up with the story that my family was extremely rich, and that day, when she saw that house that she didn't like much, it was a simple test for her in order for me to find out whether she was a gold digger or not. Judging by her behavior, he told her that she failed it. I couldn't believe that this was true. It actually meant that the girl I cared so much about had changed her mind, not because she regretted that she dumped me, but because she thought I was rich. This also meant that she initially wasn't hooked on me, but on the money I spent to amaze her. Sam also said that he didn't want her to come back to me, but he just wanted to teach her a lesson or something. Now, as y'all might have guessed, Becky is the one who's trying to keep our relationship intact. Truly, I don't have any money for expensive gifts anymore. I spent most of it during the first month of our relationship. So now I'm again kind of saving hard to fulfill my dreams. I'm still into Becky, even after everything I know about her. I just hope that maybe someday, when the time comes for me to reveal the truth, she will already be in love with me and not with my mythical money.